Hey everybody, Phantom Shadow here, and welcome back to more Root Film. Let's continue. Wait, is that... It's Shimane Neko. I'm surprised to see you on the Oki Islands. While the islands are still part of Shimane, it's not that unusual for Shimane Neko to be here. Shimane Neko says so too. What's that? I am Shimane Neko, the Alpha and Omega who transcends Shimane space and time. I shall rise as many times as Shimane's people need me to deliver this land from the darkness, you say? Oh, Shimane Neko, you're amazing. Ah, right. You're glad I understood you. He's obviously saying something else entirely. Before Yagumo's eyes is the vast blue sea. The sea breeze brushes along his skin as it passes him by. As Yagumo gazes at the horizon, Megari, who knows what he saw in the film, sends a few concerned glances. What are you two doing here? We're not scheduled to question you today. No, we're just curious if there were any developments. None. A superintendent came in from the mainland today. I don't have time for you, so take a hike. Superintendent? You can't mean. A certain face surfaces in Yagumo and Megari's minds. And sure enough, he enters the station the next moment. Hello there, Officer Masushita. Thankfully, I just finished inspecting the crime scene. Yes, good work, Superintendent. But man, it sure is hot at the islands. Pretty thirsty right now. No problem, I'll get you a drink immediately. Masushita is entirely under the impression Keishino is his superintendent. He hurries behind the counter and prepares some tea. Seeing Masushita treat Keishino with such extreme, devoted courtesy, even Yagumo can't help but feel bad for him. Masushita goes behind the counter to prepare some tea. He goes so far as to even prepare some fresh ice from the fridge. Totally thinks Keishino is some big shot from the police HQ. What are you doing, Inspector Keishino? What are you guys doing here? Wait, did you just see that? We totally did. So you lied about being a superintendent again, huh? The poor island's officers having to bend backwards for you. No, it's just being treated important like that, it feels nice. So I didn't lie. I gave my name and they jumped to conclusions. That's a total lie. You probably introduced yourself with a tone that made them misunderstand, didn't you? Keishino recoils at her questioning. But Masushita picks up as if to help him out, having returned with the tea. Hey, you guys, don't bother the superintendent with your nonsense. You might not understand it, but he's a very important figure. Refrain from bothering him. No, you don't get it. This guy, Officer Masushita, it's just an innocent civilian girl fooling around. There's no need to scold her over trifles. Yes, sir, if you say so, sir. Must admire your magnanimous outlook. Oh, not at all. Megari glares at Keishino with an expression that screams, I'm pissed. She falls silent and simply withdraws. Yagumo speaks to Keishino silently, so Masushita doesn't hear them. Isn't Inspector Masawa with you, Inspector? He's inspecting the crime scene at the Akasawa Gosho. He says he wants to check a few more things, but on-the-spot investigation is done, so we'll be meeting up and heading back to the mainland after this. Already? Talk about a round trip. Well, we need to search Mr. Abuse's office in Tokyo. We'll be in Tokyo tomorrow or the day after. Oh. So, what was the result of the investigation? Find anything? Hey now. I tell you this every time, but we can't just divulge stuff like that. It'll be on the papers eventually, so keep an eye out. This stuff is bothering me. Can't you at least tell us the cause of death? No, that's pretty critical information. Don't say that. Please tell me. No, stay out of this case and go sightseeing or something. Alright then. Matsushita, actually this guy is... Megari shouts, but Keishino covers her mouth. Stop that, what are you doing? What do you mean what? I'm telling him you're a common detective. If you tell him that now, it's gonna be kind of awkward. Well, reap what you sow. Fine, I get it. You're gonna tell us? Only his cause of death, got it? Sure. Apparently, Mr. Abuse was taking in nutrient capsules on the daily, but this time there was poison mixed into them. Nutrient capsules? I figured it was poison from how he died, but that's what it was mixed into? Yeah, he was probably prepared to use it in case something happened. So you're saying he willingly killed himself? Probably. It's clear from the footage you submitted too. Yeah. Well, you're lucky you always have a camera rolling. If it weren't for that, you'd be prime suspects again. I can imagine why. So, he willingly killed himself. Looks that way, but something doesn't sit well with me. You should check the footage of its death again. Are you gonna keep pretending to be superintendent? I mean, it's a bit late to mention that, you know? I don't know. Poor Matsushita's sucking up to you like that because he seriously believes that. We won't say anything since we promised, but make sure to tell him the truth yourself later, got it? Yes, ma'am. You're gonna watch it alone? I can function as your operator, Director. Yagumo tries to get into the van alone to confirm the footage of Abuse's death, but Megari stops him. No, only I should watch it. A girl your age shouldn't have to see footage of someone dying. It'll be bad for your prenatal care, too. Not pregnant, Director. Anyway, you can just wait there. Then let me operate the video instead. I'm not as good as Megari, but I dabbled in it. It's the same for you. I just need to operate the preview, so I'll be fine. You two wait outside. Leaving the two behind, who look like they have something to say, he enters the van alone. I need to make sure what it was that felt off to me back there. Yagumo sets the video to just before Abuse started coughing up blood. Fine then, that means my objective has been achieved. What objective? What do you make that film for? What is making me watch that thing achieve? Well, you see. What? Huh? I see. Abuse said I see right before his death. Right there, he said I see. That's what I felt. That's what felt off to me. Yagumo pauses the footage and looks carefully at Abuse inside the screen. When he started coughing up blood, he looked surprised, but he relaxes after saying, I see. His expression looks like he understood something. Just what did he see? What happened just then? Yagumo rewinds the video. Objective? What objective? Making me watch that thing achieve. Well, you see. Yagumo pauses the footage and looks carefully at Abuse. He was looking at us just before it happened. The moment he said those words, he was looking at the camera. Did he see something in the direction of the camera that made him say, I see? No way. Maybe he wasn't looking at the camera itself, but Kanade, who was holding it? That's absurd. Words of denial escaped Yagumo's lips on their own. Kanade shouldn't have anything to do with Director Abuse. To 10 years ago, Kanade was 16. He shouldn't have been related to that project. In which case, director was looking at... He's out. What is it? Did you figure out anything? Yeah, there's something I want to check. We're going to check the Akasawa Go show. Let's go. Yeah? Mm-hmm. The entrance to Akasawa Go show is taped off. The investigators cross the tape as they go in and out of the villa. Hard to imagine they speak to a civilian. Squid, squid, squid! I'm scared. Why are there squids hanging around here? The moment they step into the shrine's premises, Yagumo hears Sakia's voice. Turning his glance, he catches sight of Director Yamagishi and Sakia, who's panicked from seeing all the squids in the woods. Sakia is reacting the same as you, Megari. Well, yeah, she would. Those things are too surreal and weird. You went through something terrible, huh, Rentaro? Was the police questioning really harsh? It wasn't that bad. We had the camera rolling at the time, so the footage helped. Right, I bet you'd never imagine you'd walk into a scene of an incident like that. It's fine, I ran into incidents already at Sawano and Yonotsu. I'm used to incidents being questioned by now. I don't think that's something you should be happy about. So are you gonna continue scouting after what happened? Of course, if anything, there's no reason to stop. No, you saw a murder, you know. Maybe you're shaken by the whole ordeal and should stop filming for now. You can't change the schedule over something like this. You sound like Director Yamagishi. Are all movie directors like this? I see you're together with Sakia today, Director. Hello, Yagumo. Yes, I am. Sakia said she wanted to see this interesting shrine, so I brought her along. Sorry, you shouldn't need to babysit her. Not at all. If this contributes to her acting, it'd only help me. Mr. Fukuoshi didn't come along though. Yes, he preferred to walk around on his own. So, we're going separately for today. By the way, about the investigation. They said they're done questioning me. I did go to the Go show alone, so thankfully Sakia and Mr. Fukuoshi weren't caught up in the investigation. Really? I'm sorry, you got mixed up in this because of us. No, it wasn't your fault. They say Director Abuse committed suicide. Well, I'm relieved you feel that way at least. Besides, it was my first time being interrogated. Maybe it'd be useful for a reference for a future film. It felt like even if I told them something that felt important, they wouldn't listen. Reality has a way of being different from fiction, after all. Yeah, did you have something important to tell them? Judging by the police's reaction, it wasn't major, but there was something that felt off to me. What was it? When I visited him, I got the feeling there was someone else in the house except for Director Abuse. When Director Yamagishi visited, there was someone else aside from Abuse. That's odd. I thought Director Abuse shut himself in the house to focus on writing. Did someone else visit him except for Director Yamagishi and us? While feeling the question tug at him, Yagumo feigned calmness and asked, like who? Couldn't tell who it was, but it was just when I saw him there was 2 cups of coffee on the table. I see, that would make it seem like somebody was there. Or maybe he just got into drinking 2 cups, like going from black to coffee with milk. One hell of a weirdo if that's true. Really did come across as one. Can't deny that. You were witnesses to the moment it happened. It's only natural. The only silver lining is that you had your camera running. True, it's thanks to that footage they decided we're innocent. I don't want to think what would have happened if we didn't have that. The entrance to Asakawa Gosho is taped off. Yagumo waits as the officer standing guard in front of them looks at them suspiciously. Eventually, the man he was waiting for comes out. Masawa. Yagumo waits for the right time to speak to Masawa, who is talking with the guard. Masawa. Oh, Yagumo. You're involved with this incident again? Is what I'd like to say, but... Masawa lowers his voice to a whisper. This incident is connected to what happened in Yonotsu, isn't it? And by that I mean, Abuse was that Yukinsai Kumashira guy. Well, I don't know that for sure yet. What? I saw the footage you gave us, and that looks like a clear confession to the crime. Abuse was completely exposed and committed suicide by poison. Isn't that what happened? Yeah, but there's still something. You're being unusually elusive here. Does something else feel wrong? Yeah, I came to ensure that. I'd like to look at the scene of the crime again. Can you make that happen? Sure. We finished the investigation and combed the place for evidence. We're about to lift the blockade, so go ahead. We should be going back to the mainland next, so I'll tell the guard to let you through. Thanks. Huge help. You're acting oddly nice today, Masawa. Did something happen? Well, I've been through a lot with you guys, so I've gotten a bit attached. Masawa. Anyway, that's the deal. You can check the crime scene, so if you find something, let me know. Understood. Roger. Yagumo and his group wait until Masawa is out of sight and then head to the Gosho. They enter the room where they spoke with Abuse. The bleeding left a dark red stain on the floor, and the position of the body was roped off. So this is what you came in here to check, Director? You just want to recreate the situation. Recreate it? Yeah, Megari Kanade, you remember where you stood back then, right? Stand there, even if you're not sure that's the exact spot. Okay. The two's expression turn apprehensive, but they do it as he says and assume their spots. Having confirmed this, Yagumo tiptoes around the bloodstain and moves to the spot Abuse was standing in. I think it was like this. I was standing to your right at the time, right, Megari? Yep, right here. Megari mentions the direction of where Yagumo stood. He nods and continues. At the time, Abuse was right here and spoke to me, but after he started coughing up blood, he looked this way and whispered, I see. As he speaks, Yagumo looks towards Kanade, who's holding the camera. Right, Kanade? I remember that clearly. It left a pretty lasting impression. In other words, Director Abuse said I see to something or someone standing in that direction. The question is, who or what was it? Wait a sec. You said that while looking at Kanade? That's what I'm gonna check right now. There's a large dressing mirror at the room's corner. Looking at it, Yagumo notices he can see the view from outside the window in the reflection. Yagumo strains his eyes to look at the view reflected in the mirror. He realizes the garden can be seen outside. Abuse said I see to someone reflected from the garden right before his death. Ah, I got it. This is... Did you understand something? Yes, standing from this position, it's clear. At the time, Director Abuse was looking at Kanade at the mirror. He speaks to Kanade while keeping his gaze fixed on it. Well, Kanade, did Director Abuse looking at you when it happened look like this? That's exactly how he looked. At first, I thought he was looking into the camera, but it was faintly a bit off. I knew it. What do you mean? If he was looking at the mirror, why would he... He wasn't looking at the mirror per se, he was looking at the view that was reflected there. In other words, somebody was reflected in the mirror, someone standing in the garden outside. Someone? Remember what Director Yamagishi said? He felt like there was somebody else in the Gosho except for Director Abuse. That's because there was, and whoever we knew be there. Whoever that was knew we'd be there and went out to the garden to hide from us. So you're saying the director saw the person's figure reflected in the mirror? Yes, and upon seeing that person, he realized everything, and that's why he said, "I see." But who? The only option, and that is Manami. Huh? This is... Wait up. On that day, Manami split up from us and went to the port, so... As he speaks, Magari opens up the ferry's timetable. The ferry Manami took to the port, arrives at the destination in 1240. And after that, there's no ferry or rainbow jet that heads back to the port. Manami couldn't have come to Akasaka Gosho on that day. There are ways of crossing the island except for the Oki steamboats. She could have used that to go back to Beppu Port. I think Manami participated in the project 10 years ago too. That's the only explanation for what felt off to me in the third film. What do you mean by that? The way the movie's shot, it's off. I've been looking at director Ubuse's old works to make sure of that. Maybe that's just manly pretentiousness at play, but director Ubuse is the type to use low angles, and there's lots of pauses after spoken lines. Both of those were its quirks, and they come up often in his films, even old ones from 10 years ago, but the third film had none of that. In other words, somebody else filmed it. A deep, heavy sigh settles over the trio. Unable to bear the weight of that silence, Magari parts her lips. Why would Manami do that? I don't know either, but for now, we need to see if my reasoning is correct. Let's go, Magari, Kanade. Yagumo's theory was all too shocking for the two of them. The trio shuffle away with heavy steps, the responses they normally would have given left unsaid. Arriving at Beppu Port, Yagumo crosses the ferry wharf and heads to the edge of the port. Wait, director, where are you going? To Domestic Vessel Wharf. Domestic vessels. The locals don't use large ferries like we did. They take more domestic vessels to go to work or school. Manami probably used that. So you're saying she used a domestic vessel? Yeah, she got off at the port at 1240, and then boarded the domestic vessel Isokaze at 1321, which would let her go back to the port in minutes. Which means if she used a domestic vessel, she would have had plenty of time to get there by the time director Ubuse died. They reached the domestic wharf, where a small ferry, the Isokaze, soon came into view, like Yagumo said. Yagumo turned to the man standing in the wharf, likely the ferry's captain, spoke to him. They spoke shortly while showing off his smartphone screen. Eventually, he returns to Magari's side with a stiff expression. How'd it go? It's like I thought. The captain remembers Manami taking the ferry back that day. Manami took the domestic vessel Isokaze. It's unusual for anyone but a local to take the ferry, but she's pretty enough to stand out. I see. I don't want to believe it yet. Me neither. There's no point running from the truth at this point. You're right. It's the truth after all. Mr. Fukuoshi, there's something I'd like to ask. Something I can answer? Yes, about the project 10 years ago. Was this person part of the staff at the time? He pulls up Manami's picture on the smartphone and holds it up for him to see. This is a recent picture, so she might have looked a bit different 10 years ago. No, this is... Yes, she was part of the staff, I'm sure of it. Manami was part of the staff for the project 10 years ago. Really? Yes, I think she was working behind the scenes, but she's so pretty the filming staff was talking to her all the time. Quite a few of the staff members hit on her, but they were all rejected. I knew it. What about her? Nothing, just curious. Thank you very much. Yagumo thanks a confused Fukuoshi and places his smartphone in his pocket. Alright then. The sun begins to set as Yagumo and his team walk down the dim road. What are we gonna do next? Tell Misawa about this? No, we don't have definitive proof, and there's still too much we don't know for sure yet. For now, we should try speaking to Minami directly. So we're going back to the mainland? Yeah, apparently she went back today, but the ferries aren't going anymore. We'll be back tomorrow. Megari, can you get us tickets? On it. She takes out her smartphone and unlocks the screen, but then... That scared me. Her phone rings all of a sudden and takes the call. Hello? Yes. Well, yeah, but yes. What do you... No, we haven't. Yes, understood. Let us know if you hear anything too. Yes. Megari hangs up the call and looks at Yagumo with a pale face. What's wrong? Did something happen? Hitoa is... Did something happen to her? Hitoa-chan has disappeared from the hospital. What? What do you mean? What happened? They didn't tell me either. They said she's gone. They asked if we know where she is. Yagumo Part 5, The Solution. The next evening, Yagumo's group couldn't secure tickets for the Rainbow Jet, so they took the fastest ferry to the mainland. They arrived at Dock 7 after 5. The group headed to the hospital and rushed to Hitoa's room, trying to suppress the panic. The empty bed enters their field of vision, and the next moment, someone grabs him by the collar and slams him against the wall. You, it's you. You're the one who took Hitoa away again. What are you... Where's Hitoa? Let her go. Let Hitoa go this instant. Megari and Kanade rush in to stop the man's outburst. Wait just a moment, calm down. We're here to look for her too. We want to know where she is. The moment falls silent and glares at them. Eventually, he calms down and lets go of Yagumo. God, who are you anyway? How are you related to her? I'm her father. Oh. With all of his anger pestering out, the man introduces himself feebly as Yoshifumi Amakata. Hitoa has an incurable disease, so I told her to quit show business and go back home. Told her this time and time again, but she wanted to work for her dreams to the very end. If I knew this is what would have happened, I would have taken her back by force. Incurable disease? She never told us about it. How dare you? What didn't you understand? You're the ones that kept taking her along and exhausting her. She didn't have much time left to live, and because of you, she came here, and her condition's even worse. You shortened her lifespan because you took her along, and... He becomes speechless and covers his face with his hand. He likely realizes how unreasonable he's being, but can't stop himself. Yagumo can understand how he feels all too well, and bows his head to Yoshifumi. Sorry, we didn't give her the care and attention she needed, but please, let us help look for her right now. He says nothing, simply averting his gaze. Yagumo watches silently as Yoshifumi walks out of the room. What did he mean by she doesn't have long to live? Director? For the time being, let's not think about that. We need to focus on finding her. Yeah, you're right. But what do we do? You said we need to find her, but where do we even look? For now, we need some clues. Let's search the room and see if we can find something. Huh? On the bedside table is her smartphone connected to the charger. A lot of people probably called her since yesterday, Yagumo and his group included. Her lock screen is covered in missed call notifications. She left her smartphone behind. No wonder she didn't pick up when we called. That means we can't ask the police to track her with GPS. There's nothing unusual about the flower basket. I wouldn't find a hint in there, would I? There's a card attached to the fruit basket with Keishino's name on it. It's not Keishino's fault, but seeing his name right now kind of pisses me off. He speaks while gazing at the phone on the table. Could you unlock this phone? Huh? There's probably some kind of clue. Like, maybe she looked up where she went. No can do. It's got a password on it. There's gotta be some kind of way. Try inputting in random, maybe. Do you have an idea how many combinations exist? If you could crack passwords that easily, there would be no point to setting them in the... No, there's a way. Huh? Really, Kanade? Yeah, there's a few scenes of Hitoa unlocking her phone in the location scouting footage we made. We can estimate her password from the way she moves her fingers. Good going. Alright, pull up the footage and let's check it. The group finds the footage of Hitoa handling her phone and trace the movements of her finger to try and crack the password. Thankfully, they had a clear footage of her doing it, so they easily cracked the password on her phone in their second attempt. Easier than I thought. You stand near someone when they're unlocking their phone, it's easy to see how they move their finger. People are pretty careless about that. I'll watch out for that. The two have the exchange. Yagumo checks the phone's web browser, but clicks his tongue in disappointment. Damn, there's nothing. The only thing in her browser history is sites about places she saw with us when we are location scouting. Let's look at our emails then. He closes the browsers and opens the emails. He moves his finger restlessly for a moment, scrolling through the mail titles, but then he stops as a small gasp escapes. Ah, what's wrong? Megari peeks at the phone screen from behind Yagumo, which he sees as... That's Yugensai Kumashiro? He contacted her too? Damn it, why didn't I consider that? Searches for Yugensai Kumashiro's name and starts opening the emails one by one. Congratulations, from Yugensai Kumashiro. Miss Hitoa Amakata. Congrats. True to my predictions, your dream of getting the lead role has come true. Your disease does not mean you need to give up on your aspirations. I shall give you more advice to change your fate for the better. You only need to believe in me. Let's try something. Miss Hitoa, allow me to make a prediction so your fate can change for the better once more. Take a day off from the workshop today and try to climb up Mount Takao. The spiritual energies of that place should have a good influence on you. Keep moving and exercising. Miss Hitoa, for my next premonition for the changing of your fate, tomorrow wake up early and perform radio calisthenics. The fresh morning air and exercise should have the positive influence on staving off your illness. Yagumo stops scrolling and checks the email date. That mail arrived right when they were in the middle of location scouting in Sawano. So the reason she was exercising in front of the inn back then? Feeling a cold sweat slide down his back, Yagumo opens the next one. Try challenging yourself. From Yugensai. Miss Hitoa, here's my next premonition. Challenge yourself and try bungee jumping. Oh my god. The peril of putting your life at risk will rekindle your passion for life. Challenging yourself in the future will be important for you. Hitoa said this when we were on our way to Yanotsu. She said she tried bungee jumping. Yeah, I remember. Odd things she would do every now and then were all instructions. She kept reading the emails, seeing them instruct her on to do all sorts of odd things, and they recalled her doing, and eventually, you need to discard. A good friend of yours is in danger. My condolences. However, you must abandon that friend now. You must discard the greed to gain everything, all of your attachments. Do nothing today and watch your friend's fate through to the end. Look at the date for this. That's the time you ran away from the Yunotsu incident. So the friend this email is referring to is me, telling her to abandon me. But Hitoa was going to split from us and go back to Tokyo. Yet she came back as soon as you were proven innocent. She helped me save you, so... That's what happened. She ignored the advice for my sake. The question was what kind of calamity that brought down on her. Feeling as if something like black smoke was billowing up from the pit of his stomach, Yagumo reads the next one. You ignored my prediction. You ignored my warnings. This is quite regrettable. I have tried to protect you, but maintaining your health any further is becoming difficult. Misfortune will likely befall those close to you soon. I can no longer completely prevent this, but I will act to keep the misfortune to come to light as possible. Does he mean her father's injured arm? That dirty scheming. He drove her into a corner, like coiling her in a spider's web. Yagumo was filled with overwhelming anger at the sender. I get it. I know how this bastard operates now. He manipulates people with a mix of anchoring and foot-in-the-door tactics. He gives people instructions through social networks and emails, using persuasion and intimidation to force them. At first, he starts with simple instructions to lull his victims into a sense of safety, but his orders become more demanding, and, in the end, he tells people to commit suicide. What? Nobody would go that far just because someone online told them to. No, they would. Cases like this have happened in Russia, and from there, all around the world. So that means Hatoa's. With shaking fingers, Yagumo scrolls to the last email. He opens it to see. I applaud your resolve. Pleases me to see you abide by my predictions until the very end. The proof that you have lived will remain for all eternity. Tomorrow night I'll await you at the entrance to the underworld. Director, Hatoa is going to... What kind of entrance to the underworld does he mean? You can't tell where she is with this. Forget it. Let's split up and look for her. Yeah. I'll use the company van. Megari, use your car. Kanade, take Kanade and let the police know. Roger. It's already late enough to be considered nighttime. Ignoring the nurse's shouts, Yagumo and his group run out of the hospital. Shimane Castle is closed at night, so he could only look from the outside the inner citadel. He runs a lap around the outer wall, but doesn't find any sign of Hatoa. She isn't here. As the sun sets over Yamotsu Hirosaka, there's no one around. Complete silence. The silence is broken by the sound of an automobile braking and a car door being opened and closed, followed by Yagumo's voice. Hatoa, if you're here, say something. He goes up to the hill where the Chibiki stone is, but finds no trace. The mail mentioned the entrance to the underworld, so I'm sure it meant here. Hatoa, isn't this the place? Yagumo looks around stubbornly for a while longer, but gives up and goes back to the van. Yagumo rushes to the Miokan and calls out to the woman in the front. Does Manami Hashima still have a room here? Yes, she still has a room here. She's been staying for a long time. If she's back, could you call her, okay? Quickly. No, she was back last night, but went out this evening. Do you know where she went? Please tell me. I didn't ask her about this. Except, she did ask for a rental car to be arranged. So I believe she is likely far away from here right now. Rental car? Toa's probably with her. Where'd they go? Yagumo hurriedly thanks the woman at the front desk. Hatoa, where'd you go? He had no idea where to look next. Yagumo was racking his brain in an attempt to come up with some place. The email mentioned the entrance to the underworld, but it wasn't Yamotsu Hirosaka. Where could it be? Having realized that much, realization suddenly flashed through his mind. Right, Shimane has another hole to the underworld. Inome Cave, the Izumo Fudoki calls it a hole to the underworld. That's the place. No sooner does he realize this, Yagumo. The tires screech as the van turns around and heads south down 431 route. From the 431 route, he turns to 250 and then drives along the coastline to the rustic national highway of Route 23. Then he arrives on spot where there are a few civilian houses and over a few traffic signs and no cave. Pulls over across the road and goes down the trail only familiar with the area know of. He reaches what looks like a ship graveyard. There he finds You've come, Yagumo. Manami. A folding chair is set facing the sea where Manami sits with a sea breeze blowing through her hair. What do you do with Hitoa? As Yagumo draws on her in rage, Manami lifts an index finger to her lips, silencing him. Shouting like that would be an insult to the beautiful moonlit night. I'm sure you have a lot to ask me, so let's take our time and talk. There's only one thing I want to know right now. Where's Hitoa? My, what makes you think I know where she is? Don't play coy with me. I know everything already. You're Yugensai Kumashiro, aren't you? A detective told me about him. He murders people by sending them emails and manipulating them, huh? Wasn't that Director Abuse? That's why he committed suicide, poisoning himself. No, Director Abuse died because someone replaced the capsules he drinks with poison ones. That wasn't suicide, it was murder. What makes you say that? The expression Director Abuse made when he started coughing up blood, there was a hint of surprise in his eyes. He wouldn't have made that expression if he poisoned himself. You're perceptive. But the emotions and facial expressions he made are just your subjective opinion. That isn't enough to decisively conclude it was murder, is it? No, there was something else about the way he acted that made me conclude it was a murder, and that's... Abuse bought the Akisawa Gojo after Director's death. There was poison mixed into the nutrient capsules Abuse was taking on a daily basis. He said I see right before his death. Probably. Director Abuse, when it happened, he said I see. He looked surprised when he started coughing up blood, and then he realized something. That doesn't seem natural for a suicide. Yeah, it doesn't, but what does it mean? He probably saw the person who set him up and poisoned him on the spot. And that moment he saw that person, he understood everything and accepted his fate. But the police said that except for you, nobody else was there. In other words, whoever he was looking at was one of your group. No, that's not right, because Manami worked as a non-linear editor for another company in the past. Abuse bought the... No. When Director Yamagishi visited, there was someone else aside from Abuse in the Gojo. This one. There were signs of someone other than us at the villa. Someone else? Yes, Director Yamagishi visited the villa before we did and saw 2 cups of coffee. He didn't see that other person, but there were 2 coffee cups on the table in the villa where he was supposedly alone. There must have been someone else there. In other words, Director Abuse was looking at that person. Wait, even if there was somebody like that in the villa, I hear it was just him and your group in that room. How did he see that person then? Damn it. Right, I need to point that out first. Abuse said I see to someone reflected in the garden right before his death. No, at the time he wasn't looking at us. My, that's odd. Who else would he have been looking at when it was only you and him at the house? He wasn't looking directly at a person, he was looking at the mirror inside the house, and when he had looked into the mirror from his position, he had a view of the garden. He was looking at the garden through the mirror's reflection, where he saw somebody hiding there. In other words, he was looking at you. At me. I took a ferry to the port and got off at Nakanoshima. How would I have gotten to the villa on Nishinoshima from there. Well, Manami took the domestic vessel, Isokaze. It's quite simple, you used a domestic vessel. True, the Oki Island steamboat ferry was already closed for the day, but you could take a domestic vessel back to Beppu port. I checked with Isokaze's captain, and he remembers you boarding his ferry on that day. If you weren't the one to switch in the poison capsule, why did you hide it and act as if you were only arriving at the island another day? The two glared at each other for a short while, but then Manami starts laughing and chuckling like a child. What's so funny about this? I mean, you always act exactly the way I want you to. What? All of your answers are correct. Perfect A+. Really, you'll always score top marks. That's true for Sawano and Yonotsu. What do you mean by that? You know, Yagumo, the simpler a murder is, the harder it is to solve. The most important part is getting rid of the corpse. Nowadays in Japan, a case is hardly ever considered an incident if they can't find a body. Mystery films and novels make it seem like you need overblown tricks to do it, but the truth is, not using tricks makes the case harder to crack. In which case, why? Why did Sakio Ito and Yugo Tomine go to the trouble of setting up such elaborate tricks? Wait, are you saying it was you? It was. I just gave him a bit of advice. Don't misunderstand. They wanted to murder someone to begin with. I just gave them a little push. You gave them advice as Yugensai Kumashiro, but why did you do that? I had multiple reasons, but the biggest one was you. Me? Yes, so you could film it and solve those tricks by viewing the footage. I set up those juicy incidents also you could do that. Why did you do that? Manami doesn't answer the questions, but simply gazes at the sea. Eventually, she turns back to him with a smile that's far too gentle considering what she just confessed. You see, Yagumo, people have a fascination with seeing the deaths of others. That's something my little sister's death taught me. Your little sister's death? My younger twin sister. Ever since I was little, we would communicate perfectly. Telepathy. A twin's resonance, perhaps. Even when we are apart, we could share and feel each other's feelings. The case of Sakio and Seiya Ito crossed his mind. Probably something like the resonance Manami had with her younger sister. When she was a student, she committed suicide by jumping. I could feel her emotions in the days that led up to it, left me depressed. But the true stabbing sorrow only came rushing in just before she breathed her last. She jumped down from the apartment building roof, crashing onto the concrete, and in that despair, while the flame of her life was flickering out, none of the people tried to save her. They tried to turn their cameras at her. Ah. So that explains the beginning of the game. Her sorrow at the time must have been intense. I was on my way back from school and I didn't just feel her emotions, I saw what she saw. There was so much pain, but all they did was stand back and snap photos. They only saw her death as a spectacle. That's so... And at that moment I realized, deep down in their subconscious, people constantly long to see other people's deaths. Not everyone's like that. I wonder about that. When you looked at these incidents' footage, didn't you feel drawn to them? What? As you were watching them just for the cause of solving all these cases, deep down you actually enjoyed watching those deaths, didn't you? I didn't. You don't need to be ashamed of it, it's human nature. Maybe it's curiosity, or maybe it stems from a dread of one's potential death. You see, every day life throws a many-sided set of dice. Your dice's sides decrease as you get older, and each side's chance of landing increase. And in the end, your die falls on the side of death. It's a fair and impartial system, and everyone lives their days aware of it to some extent. And so, when they see someone else die, people become relieved. My dice didn't land on the side of death today. That's what you were trying to tell me with all this? You drove my sister to suicide and filmed her death all because you want to teach me this? That's what makes you exactly the same as the people who sat by as your sister died. No, you're wrong. How am I? I don't seek entertainment that relishes in death. I want art that challenges people, shakes them to their core, to their very subconscious. And so, I wouldn't film just anyone's death. It wouldn't form the contrast composition of fine art if it isn't the life of someone who lived brilliantly. That's why you picked my sister? Your sister didn't wish to remain a nameless actress. She aimed for stardom without resorting to lowly tactics like lustful swimsuit shoots or lowly films meant to entice the masses. And so she accepted my offer on her own will. That's sophistry. Sophistry? That's right, you preyed on her weak heart. My sister was terribly ill. She was stricken with an incurable disease. I can't imagine how anxious and afraid she was. You took advantage of that. Even so, that doesn't change the fact she did it of her own will. The fact remains she wanted to remain on film. She was going to die either way, so rather than die weak and emaciated, she wished to live her last as an actress, leaving her mark on the world. And so I turned her brilliance of life, the moment her life turned to death, into art, by burning it onto film. You're wrong, huh? You're wrong. You drove her to death. You made her think that way. I know your methods by now. You manipulated her the same way you toyed with Toa. You start with simple introductions to make people obedient, and act as if you predicted the result to make them form a positive bias of you. And if they don't obey, you sometimes persuade them or intimidate them other times. That's how you corner people before they realize it's too late. You cornered my sister by threatening her. You told her harm would come to those around her if she didn't cooperate. What in the world are you talking about? I mean, we're sent by multiple senders. Akari Kuramochi was once the actress for Manabe and was burned while on the roll. You can cite Kumashiro's. Okay, there's only two. You impersonated a shaman called Yuginsai Kumashiro. You used multiple people to do it, to stay in contact with your targets. In other words, you can keep a constant watch on your targets, even if it wasn't just you. Multiple people? You mean Yugo Tomine? But that was an exception. He was out of my sight except for my telling him to lead you to Capricious Hall, but I only relied on him for that time. Everything else was done by me and me alone, including your sister, of course. In that case, I didn't constantly watch and corner your sister. I couldn't do that much on my own. In other words, your sister willingly accepted my proposal. Damn it. Akari Kuramochi was once the actress for Manabe and was burned while on the roll. I mean that accident that hurt Manabe's actress. A lighting stand hit her, inflicting burns that ended her acting career. You did that to corner my sister. You did the same to Toa. By injuring her dad, you put her under the impression that disobeying meant those close to her would be hurt. The brilliance of their life. You coerce people into obeying you, if you call it art. I see. What you say isn't wrong. At least, what you say on the surface. On the surface? I mean, you looked at the footage from Suwano and Yunotsu, the incidents you encountered, all to stimulate your creativity, haven't you? That's not... I didn't... You might say that. Abuse was like that at first too. Once he started gathering films of death, like I told him, his writing style changed to the better. He became capable of cutting into the profound depths of what makes one human and express it on the screen without relying on exaggerated acting. And what was the result of that? He gained fame and acclaim, elevating him to current status. That's all the proof you need. That's true. Why'd you do that to him? True art, True artistic pursuit requires vast amounts of passion, and he was tired. His passion was petering out over the last few years. So I simply had him play out his final task, to serve as an exquisite piece of reference material. Exquisite piece of reference material? To create a proper successor, I wanted to give him a chance to touch on real death. I didn't have such a moment of true death, and so I had him act out that moment. In other words, to make you his successor. Me? And you created all those incidents so far for that? Tonight, I will use the perfect reference material to remake you into a successor. See? The director's already called action. Huh? Manami points at the shore. He follows her finger to find Hatoa, standing at the water surface that looks like undulating molten darkness. Is Hatoa. She stands up to her knees in the water and turns back, her back turned to them. Hatoa, she can't hear Yagumo's voice. Because Hatoa takes one slow step into the water, then another, as her body is gradually swallowed up. Hatoa, what did you... Well, do you like the sight? Huh? Fantastical, beautiful, the very image of profound elegance, isn't it? This is true art. The kind that mystifies the heart of man. Now choose, Yagumo. Will you become Obuse's successor, a true artist, or end as an average run-of-the-mill director? Stop shitting with me. Huh? I'm Yagumo. Rintaro Yagumo. No. Yagumo Max, a filmmaker. I'm not the kind of pathetic director that needs to rely on other people's deaths to make art. You're throwing this chance away? I get as many chances as I need in the future. Just bite your fingers and watch me do it from your prison cell. Roaring from the depths of his lungs, Yagumo unflinchingly takes off, plunging into the dark sea. He parts the waves with both arms, spraying water all around him as he swims towards Hatoa. Hatoa, come back. Hatoa, can you hear me? Stay back. Please, stay back. What are you saying? Get back here. Give me your hand. Please, leave me alone. Huh? I don't have long to live either way, so at least let my final moment be... What would filming that achieve? There's no value in that. Don't let Manami fool you with her sophistry. I don't care if it's sophistry. What? If that way I can leave my image in this world. Someone could see it and know I existed. In that case, I'll film you. What? I'll film you when you're at your most radiant, but it'll be the way you live, the way you struggle to live despite your illness to the very end. So please, don't throw your own life away. With that scream, Yagumo catches up to Hatoa and holds her in his embrace. Hatoa, director. At that moment, a large wave washes over them. His wet clothes and the weight of two people weighing him down, rendering him unable to stand as the waves crash over them. This is bad. But at that moment, just as despair was creeping into Yagumo's heart, Hatoa, Yagumo. A hand grabbed Yagumo by the collar, yanking him to the shore. Hatoa, stay with me. Yagumo, hold on too. Keishino? With Keishino's help, the two of them are dragged back to shore, little by little. Keishino for the win! At some point, several patrol cars pulled over at the side of the road, and Misawa stood in front of Manami. Manami Hashima, an arrest warrant has been issued against you. You're charged with instigation of murder, at least at present. Could I ask you to cooperate and come along quietly? Understood. Manami finally rose to the shore, and turned to look at Yagumo, who gazed at her while dripping with water. This isn't to my taste, but maybe this kind of ending works too. She stood up with a faint smile on her lips. Alright, 21:17 hours, suspect apprehended. At Misawa's voice, officers rushed to take Manami away. Director, Hatoa. Mm-hmm. And behind them, Yagumo can see Magari and Kanade approach with a smile. Wow. There probably is an epilogue after the credits, but, like, I really love this game. It was a very solid mystery. And, you know, besides all the insane amount of typos that made me think that nobody proofread this at all. But, yeah, aside from that, this was really cool. Museum, CG gallery, movie gallery, sound gallery. Huh. Aw, that's nice. You can see the full CG. I wonder what bonuses. The first ever Which is that tournament. Yay! Yes, I'm sure you're all familiar with Kanade's With a single annotation, his harbors many meanings and emotions. Kanade will now say and we'll have to guess which situation that refers to. Yes, sir. That sounds kind of hard. Let's get started. Let's begin with the situation. Kanade, let her rip. Huh? What was that? Alright, time for your answers. Hitoa, go ahead. You gave him instructions and he said yes. Wrong. The correct answer was when he tries to add some vinegar to his plate of gyoza but spills too much and overflows from the plate. Huh? There's no way that's what... Second question. Wait. Go ahead, Kanade. Huh? Can't tell the difference. Okay, it's time for your answers. Magari. He ate something sour, so he's like, whoa, that's sour. Too bad. The answer was, he was 5 minutes late to return the video to the rental store and had to pay a fee. That's too bad. Those were the easy ones. I hope you get them. How the heck were we supposed to get those right? She's right, this quiz isn't even fair. Hey, cut it out. Stop throwing stuff at me. He's right. There's a difference between my, Zip it, righteous justice. Stop it. Wait. No waiting. None. Gah. A few minutes later, the two of them lie on the ground like tattered floor rags while Magari and Hitoa walk away. Alright. Well, that was neat. I'll probably get the platinum. I just need to get everything wrong. Fail every max mode. Alright, I replayed the entire game again, just for this platinum trophy. The final showdown. Let's lose this thing. We did it. We completed the game. So yeah, that was Root Film. It was pretty neat. Thanks for watching and see you guys next time with something else. Bye.